Breaking tonight as North Korean officials welcome American diplomats on their home soil a world away. Kim Jong-un's hand man is on his way to the United States. That is him during a layover in Beijing. And he should be in New York City, we understand, tomorrow to meet with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo over the next 24 hours. U.S. officials no doubt on high alert as Kim Jong-chol, a blacklisted North Korean general with quite a past, is going to be on American soil. Trace Gallagher here now with his backstory. Hi, Trace.
Hi, Martha. Make no mistake, 72-year-old Kim Jong-chol has very few fans in both South Korea and the United States. South Korea still believes Kim Jong-chol, a former four-star general and chief intelligence officer, was behind the 2010 attack of a South Korean Navy ship that killed 46 sailors. And former U.S. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper identified Kim Jong-chol as the man in charge of the hacking operation of Sony Pictures back in 2014. But therein lies the dichotomy, because while General Kim is feared and hated, he also happens to be the primary face of North Korea's charm offensive, which began during the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang. And Kim Jong-chol was at the closing ceremonies. He has also been in attendance at all four of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un's recent summits, two with Chinese leader Xi Jinping and two with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. And separately, Kim Jong-chol is considered a key negotiator in the diplomatic talks with South Korea. As for U.S.-North Korea relations, experts say it's crucial that General Kim also reportedly has a solid working relationship with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who has been in North Korea twice in recent months. The White House says that Pompeo and Kim Jong-chol will meet later this week to finalize plans for the U.S.-North Korea summit. The remainder of the schedule has not yet been released, but President Trump tweeted this, quoting, "We have put a great team together for our talks with North Korea. Meetings are currently taking place concerning summit and more. Kim Jong-chol, the vice chairman of North Korea, heading to New York. Solid response to my letter. Thank you." So while the former North Korean general's surprise trip to the U.S. is certainly a positive sign that the summit is on track, it's still 2 weeks away, an eternity for diplomacy. Martha.
Trace, thank you so much. Here now, General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. General, this has already been quite an interesting roller coaster to watch. You know, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, has been twice now to North Korea. So I guess on this round, they said, you know what, you're going to come to us in New York, and we're going to talk there, while another delegation has gone over to discuss denuclearization and exactly what that looks like. Where does this all stand in your mind?
Well, I think the visit of the North Korean envoy here is something that of that stature, who clearly has been at all the major negotiation points. He's obviously carrying a message. And I think first that message is that Kim Jong-un definitely wants this summit to go forward. The president hasn't made that final decision yet, but he stunned the North Koreans and the Chinese, and I think the South Koreans as well, when he tubed the summit based on what he believed, and I think rightfully so, which seemed to be a lack of seriousness on the part of the North Koreans, unduly influenced by the Chinese. So he's carrying that message. We want this summit to go forward. And I think likely he's trying to get the actual content of the summit back on track, that Kim Jong-un is serious about denuclearization. Whether he truly is or not remains to be seen. What these guys say and what they do largely are two different things. And I think he's also trying to convey a message that Kim Jong-un is absolutely committed. From the United States, major concession to him is that the security of his regime indefinitely. But I do think the key meeting is also going to take place, and is taking place, yesterday at Panmunjom with our delegation and also the North Korean delegation, because they're getting into the details, Martha, of what North Korea is really going to put on the table.
And that's really what it all comes down to, right? I mean, what does denuclearization mean? What does it look like? Is it something that happens in a couple of stages? Because in the past, we've been promised that and gotten nothing. We've seen those facilities reopened, reoperating in no time after they got their money, essentially. What does it have to look like in your mind?
Well, I think what the leader of our delegation, Sung Kim, is probably asking the North Koreans and wanting from them, if you're serious about denuclearization, give us a full accounting of your nuclear weapons and your missiles, where they're located, where the storage sites are, where the fuel sites are, etc. Let's put together a process to verify and our ability to oversee your disarming and dismantling that on some kind of a schedule that makes sense. Not something that's going to take many years, but something that's reasonable in a couple of years. I'm confident our delegation would want to see that from the North Koreans. Now, whether they're willing to put that on the table or not is another matter. It's likely there's going to be differences, Martha, and I think the summit hinges on whether our delegation, in their minds, thinks that we can resolve some of those differences through negotiation, where the summit at least could have the strategic framework and begin a process to be successful. If they think it's not resolvable, then I think the summit would be delayed until we're able to change those conditions a little bit.
Fascinating. You know, clearly they already know that President Trump doesn't approve of the Iran model. So that's probably not going to happen, and it's probably the model that they would most like. So we'll see where this goes. General, thank you very much. Great to have you with us tonight.
Yeah, Martha, one more thing. And they know full well that they can't play Donald Trump. China, North Korea, and even South Korea have all tried that in the last few weeks, and they know they're not going to get away with it.
Yeah, I remember Nancy Pelosi said, "Oh, he must be having a giggle fit over this letter, Kim Jong-un," but she's noticeably silent on the whole thing at this point. So we'll see. General, good to see you tonight. Thank you again.
Take care, Martha.
You too. So coming up, the Golden State Killer case in court today. They found his DNA in the garbage and scanned it through an ancestry website. So if you have spit and sent your DNA, is it safe? Plus, Roseanne Barr gets the boot. Turning Point USA's Candace Owens and African-American Studies professor Jason Nichols up next.
A lot of us, you know, no matter who we voted for, we don't want to see our president fail.
Every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115.
Dear Lord, thank you for this food and for bringing our son DJ home safe from Syria. Please protect his wife Gina and all our troops still overseas. But most of all, Lord, thank you for making America great again.
Roseanne was ABC's first #1 hit in 24 years. Today it came crashing down for her and for the network that had just gushed about her during their upfront presentations after she took aim at former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett with this terrible tweet that you can see up there on your screen now. So within hours, ABC released this statement. Roseanne's Twitter statement is abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values, and we've decided to cancel her show. Joining me now is Reaction Candace Owens, Communications Director for Turning Point USA, and Jason Nichols, African-American Studies Professor at the University of Maryland. Welcome to both of you. Good to have you both with us tonight. Thank you. This is Roseanne's apology that she put out before she got fired. I apologize to Valerie Jarrett and to all Americans. I am truly sorry for making a bad joke about her politics and her looks. I should have known better. Forgive me. My joke was in bad taste. Candace, should that have been enough or no?
Well, it begs the question, why is it enough when other people say awful things on air? Why is it enough when Bill Maher uses the N-word live, and it's not enough when she does it? The question I think that's on so many Americans' mind is not whether or not what she said was right or wrong. It is clearly wrong. She should be condemned. But the question is why other people tend to be pardoned in these same situations. We saw this with Bill Maher. We saw this with Joy Behar. We see this with Keith Olbermann, who has said some disgusting things via Twitter and yet was able to secure a job at ESPN. So it begs a bigger question. Is the difference between right and wrong, liberal or conservative?
No. You know, I think wrong is wrong. Just take a look at Joy Behar. You just mentioned her. Let's play this soundbite from February 13.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you.
Exactly.
That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct.
So, Jason, she basically said that Christians who believe that Jesus speaks to them are mentally ill or have a mental illness. She also apologized, and last time I checked, she's on the air pretty much every day.
Right, and her comments were terrible. But one of the things that we need to realize is this is a pattern of behavior by Roseanne. She sent in the exact same tweet about another African-American woman in 2013. So when you have a pattern
but they knew that
of
when
behavior,
they hired her at ABC. I mean, everybody knew who they were getting, right?
It wasn't a pattern at that point, Candace. It wasn't a pattern at that point.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. No problem.
But, you know, it wasn't a pattern at that point. If you've done it over and over again and you have pictures of you as Hitler and putting gingerbread men into an oven, I think at a certain point we've got to take a stand. And the company decided to take a stand.
We all, you know, anybody who's been around, you know, the past 20 years watching Roseanne do her stuff knows that, you know, she is, you know what you're going to get. She's crude and crass, and she says things that she shouldn't say. And, you know, it's completely up to ABC's discretion here. If they just, you know, they obviously made a decision that they felt that this was fireable behavior. You know, you look at Wanda Sykes, who called Rush Limbaugh the 20th hijacker, Kathy Griffin, who held a bloody, severed head of Donald Trump. You know, when you look at all this, it just, what I'm curious about, Candace, is that the prescription for punishment seems to be career-ending. In certain situations, right? And then in other situations, it's not. Even Joy Reid, who made homophobic slurs, was one of the people who was asked to come on today on MSNBC and give her reaction to this, Candace.
Yes, it's unbelievable. And I thought of Joy Reid. Not only did she say homophobic slurs, she then lied about it. She lied about the homophobic slurs, said she got hacked, and she was not made to leave her show whatsoever. She is still brought onto TV every single day. And Jason, to answer your question, if you're saying that the difference is establishing a pattern, then you've not yet answered why Keith Olbermann is able to secure a contract with ESPN. Have you read his tweets lately? Talk about establishing a pattern. He's been absolutely vitriolic, hateful, and disgusting, not only to our president, but to any single person that supports him. So as I ask the question, what is the differentiator here?
Jason?
Candace, has he called anyone a monkey, which we know goes back to, or excuse me, an ape, which goes back to stereotypes that started during the antebellum period that have been, you know, started with scientific racism.
Oh, so it's a historical factor. I'm just asking you on air. I'd like to know. I'd like to know once and for all, what is the differentiator? Is it a historical factor? Is it how long it's been said? Was Joy Reid's homophobic slurs not been said forever since the beginning of time against gays?
One of the things you have not established is whether Joy Reid has been hacked. That's never really been established. But that's we're talking about. We're talking about ABC,
she basically admitted it. Jason, hold on.
She did admit it. She admitted it, and she apologized.
She said, that's
she said
a person
she did not
that I don't recognize. I'm no longer like that. That's what she said, essentially. I'm paraphrasing a bit,
Jason. This is ABC's choice. ABC decided that they don't want this type of behavior and this type of pattern to continue.
Everybody's saying they get that.
And they've actually made a
We get that. You're not adding anything new here. We understand that, and we're not condemning ABC. We are asking clearly, what is the differentiator? Why is it okay when Joy Reid does it and lies about it, and it's not okay when Roseanne does it? We're not saying either forms of behavior are acceptable.
It sounds as though you are. That's exactly what it sounds
as though you're saying. That's why I don't appreciate you pretending like that's okay.
Very early in the discussion that I don't think anybody's defending what Roseanne Barr said.
Nobody is defending her actions.
I gotta go, guys. I wish we had more time.
I'm trying to understand why you are defending the actions of Joy Reid, why you are defending Keith Olbermann. I'm trying to understand how that works in your head.
Put a button on it. Thanks, you guys. Sorry about that. More time next time, hopefully. All right, up next, embattled Missouri Governor Eric Greitens announces that he's resigning amid mounting scandals. Missouri Attorney General Josh Hawley has been investigating the governor. He's up next.
And people of good faith know that I am not perfect, but I have not broken any laws nor committed any offense worthy of this treatment.
We are waiting for President Trump's rally in Nashville. A lot of people already in the house there as they get ready. He's there for Marsha Blackburn, who's running for Senate, for Bob Corker's seat. We're going to take you there as soon as that gets underway. But first, some other breaking political news tonight. Missouri Governor Eric Greitens announced his resignation today amid a flurry of scandals and investigations which began just hours after he was sworn in January. The governor admitted to having an affair with his former hairdresser before he took office, but he denied allegations of blackmail after the mistress alleged that he took a partially nude photo of her. The photo never materialized, and the state dropped the case exactly 2 weeks ago, leaving Greitens free of the felony charge. My next guest, State Attorney General Republican Josh Hawley, launched a separate investigation into a charity donor list that he says Greitens used for political purposes. Hawley called on him to resign in April. He joins me now in his first exclusive interview on this evening. Good to see you, Attorney General Hawley. Thank you for being here tonight. I guess the question is, it looked like he was, kind of in the clear. So what happened between then and now that forced the resignation today?
Well, look, the governor has done the right thing by the state of Missouri today in resigning his office, and I am cheering for our new incoming governor, Mike Parson. He's going to do a great job. My office stands ready to assist in the transition, and now the state of Missouri can move forward to what is going to be a better day. And so we look forward to putting this behind us, and Governor Parson, I think, is going to do great.
Do you think that, it was your pursuing of the charity donor list that sort of turned the tide here? Because he had a decision that didn't go the way his attorneys wanted it to go today, correct?
Yeah, that's correct earlier in court today, Martha. But you know what? Look, I took an oath as Attorney General to enforce the law of Missouri without fear or favor to anybody. And that's exactly what I have done. And that's what I'm going to go on doing, whether that means taking on sex traffickers or standing up to big pharma or to big tech. My office enforces the laws of Missouri and defends the people of Missouri, no matter who it is. That's what we've always done, and that's exactly what I'm going to keep doing. There was some vulnerability, or there was some criticism of you early on that you weren't tough enough on the Republican governor of your state. Is that something that you expect is going to come up when you're in debates against Claire McCaskill, who you were running against for Senate in Missouri? You know, Claire McCaskill is eager to change the record from anything having to do with her record. She has a terrible record for the people of Missouri. She has voted to keep our border open, to not secure it. She's voted to send jobs overseas. She's voted to raise the cost of our health care, Martha. That's why she is the least popular senator in America on a ballot this November, and we're going to send her home. So I'm proud to stand on my record, standing up for and fighting for Missourians. Peddling fake news when it comes to President Trump. They cited a recent report on his on-again, off-again summit with North Korea that claims that this is a quote from the paper, a senior White House official told reporters that even if the meeting were reinstated, holding it on June 12th would be, quote, impossible. To which the president fired back, wrong again. Use real people, not phony sources. And further review reveals that the president actually had a legitimate case to complain about that. Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist and a Fox News contributor, wrote about this today. Molly, great to have you with us this evening. I don't know how many people spend time going back and forth on Twitter watching all of this stuff, but it's pretty interesting. When you dig into what happened here, they basically said, that his aide
it would be impossible to have a June 12th meeting. Trump says that's a phony news, fake news. They countered by releasing audio of an off-the-record briefing and outing the person who gave that briefing and saying, well, see, this proves we were right. The only problem was the audio definitely did not show that they were right. The audio shows him being asked if he thought this was an impossible thing to have this meeting at this date, and he definitely does not say that he thinks it's impossible. He says the point is North Korea better act and act quickly if they want something to happen, but he does not say that it's impossible. And it's important to remember, too, that this briefing happened after Trump had exited the summit, but before North Korea responded that they would behave better or, that they were trying to get things back. So that context is very important, and they just completely misunderstood at best, or they lied about what that source had said.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back, there's so many examples of things along these lines, and you point some of them out. It matters as a reporter if the aide says that it would be impossible, right? Impossible is a very definitive word, but what the aide was saying in the room was that they would been working hard towards this summit, that it's difficult to pull these things off in time frames, but that's very different. If the president turns to that aide and says, we're going to go on June 12th, I think you can bet that they're going to work all night in order to get ready for June 12th.
Right. And it wouldn't have been the biggest error if the entire point of the story wasn't that Trump and his aides were at odds. This guy definitely was saying it was difficult, but when you're trying to make that case, you better make that case airtight. And it's why people have trouble believing anonymous sources to begin with. It's not that these people don't exist, but the media have not shown themselves to be trustworthy. about accurately conveying information that comes from people.
It's important. Words are important, and facts do matter. Here's Kellyanne Conway talking about another instance of this having to do with the children who were separated from their family in the immigrant situation at the border. Listen to this.
Look at what they did this weekend. They saw these pictures of two migrant, I suppose, children in cages, and because one of them tweeted it must be true, so they just retweet and retweet. Those are pictures from 2014. All of a sudden they started deleting those tweets because it didn't fit their narrative about this president and the border, and that means to me that they didn't really care about the story about the migrant children. It didn't fit the political narrative.
Yeah, the tweet on one of those, oh, here, there it is. All of these photos are disturbing, but the first two are especially awful. And it is awful to see these kids in this situation. And this is still the policy of this administration. But these pictures were taken in the prior administration when the same policy existed, Molly.
Well, recently President Obama said that he didn't have any scandals during his administration. There's a hidden truth in that, which is scandals weren't covered during the Obama administration. When something like that happened, children in cages, the media might have covered it a little bit, but they didn't make it into a huge thing like happened on Twitter, where former Obama officials and members of the media were tweeting this out and manufacturing a bunch of outrage about something that is a long-standing issue going back through multiple administrations. That unevenness with how these administrations are covered also goes a long way to explaining why people are having trouble having confidence in the media.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, if you're horrified by those pictures, you should be horrified by those pictures, right? And then those same people who were tweeting that should have said, wow, I am horrified to figure out that this actually happened in 2014 under the prior administration. So I condemn them and this administration and every other administration who's had this policy. But instead, they, take it down in sort of the dark of night and pretend like they never said it.
Well, not just that. There's actually been a huge series of mistakes about these stories, conflating issues of families arriving seeking refugee status versus children arriving who are unaccompanied minors, who are placed in the homes of other people. There has not been really quality coverage from a lot of people explaining the nuances and details of a very complicated immigration story, and it's much easier to just get upset rather than cover these things well.
Molly, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So coming up tonight, if you have spit and sent your DNA, is that DNA safe? Is it private to you? The ethical debate that has now been sparked by the capture of the suspected Golden State Killer. What is really happening with your genetic information and your family's genetic information when you sign up for those sites?